Now come to order, and it is 6:02 1/2.
Perfect.
Thank you. Director Salmon?
5.
That was my watch saying it is
Oh,
6:02.5. Yeah, geez.
okay.
Oh,
So, and then just to note, Director Leach was unable to join us due to work that he does out right now during the Eaton fire area. Director Salmon is not feeling well, so he is taking that opportunity to be remote. And we have no other community members other than Mr. Roy Musa, our property manager, also in the property. So that updates on who's around.
so this is the agenda, not changed from what was distributed, right?
Correct.
So no public comments.
Unless, Roy, you got anything to?
No, just a question on the paving.
Yes.
Is it just that one day?
No, it's all week.
Oh, that whole week? Okay, because there were like 2 other committees that are planning to meet there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have been contacted like a couple of weeks ago. So let me look into what happened there. Yeah. We will check into that. We were trying to be very good with all of our emails and calls, so everyone would stay abreast of things, so.
It might have been Eileen's mistake, because in the agenda she sent out, it said wellness center.
Yeah, well.
But we need to make sure
Yeah.
that if it's booked, this room has been busy as well. So we want to make sure if we can move stuff to this room. If not, we need to let people know as much in advance as possible to find another space, because
Right.
space is always the hard part. Yeah.
Thank you.
Heck yeah. So. Howard, that kind of leads us to actually point A, which is the site logic update, if you want me to just roll into that one.
Yes, please.
Okay. Teresa and I met this afternoon with Greg Olson, who is our project superintendent for that project. If you haven't been out there recently, the solar structure is complete and up. We are still doing a little bit of the electrical work and some of the conduits that will lead to building A. As we were just discussing, is that we will do the paving and the berms and the everything next week. There is no rain in the forecast, which I'm sorry for the fires. I'm happy for us. So they will do all the paving next week and do some striping. And then that will sit over the weekend. And then we're closed on the 20th for Martin Luther King Jr. Observance. And then on the 21st, we are slated to reopen. Site Logic will then come back probably in early spring and do the final seal coat once all the new asphalt has had a chance to be settled. And then that will be the completion of the parking lot part. And we'll just be waiting for SDG&E to do the energizing of the full EV charging. So next week they'll do the paving, and then there's the week after, once we reopen, they'll just need a day, I think he said. And we'll cordon off like 4 of the parking spaces for the final installation of the EV charging units. But the rest of the parking lot can be accessible that way.
Sounds great. Just speaking of the EV panels, since I wasn't a part of the plan, in addition to just being good energy citizens, is the project paying for itself over time?
Yeah, it'll pay for itself over time in savings on our energy bill.
Yeah.
They basically have that penciled out to save. You've paid for it in 30 years is their estimation.
Wow.
The expectation that I have is that that'll probably go sooner, because we will also need to add more solar. The way the project works is they can only kind of authorize through the project adding so much solar based on your previous utility bills. Well,
Okay,
our utility bills previous, the center wasn't fully open. We didn't have HVAC in all the units. So it really didn't show an accurate electrical use.
yeah,
So when we met with SiteLogic, we asked them to overbuild the structure. So it doesn't actually have solar across the whole structure. There is room on the structure for additional solar that will add on probably within the next 5 to 10 years. And that will allow us to generate more. Depending how much the EV charging is used, will help to offset and recoup any costs from that. The long term that we had them pencil out with conservative estimates showed that within 30 years, the whole entity is paid for itself.
thank you.
Yep. So anything else on SiteLogic, Roy, for you on paving or questions?
Are they restriping too, after the paving? How are they handling like the ADA for each individual building? ADA parking space?
Well, so they don't need to do it for each individual building. We already have a ADA on the upper parking right by building A.
Right.
And then the lower parking will have ADA for the solar or for the EV charging and for additional access. And then for the house, because that's not in play, we don't have specific parking over there. We'll deal with that one probably later. Once that whole front entry is redone, we'll put in accessible parking down there. We did get funding from Community Benefit Program through FPUD for the ramps, the ADA ramps that will be in front of Building A and for the parking lot into that lower shade structure. So I'll probably be putting an RFP together for that, but that will eventually tie in for all the ADA access. Any questions?
Not for me, thank you.
Okay. Well, I'll jump over then to item B, which is Building A, Room 2, Encinitas Design Group update. That design, which the board saw that showed that new roof structure, we did take that to the planning group. That happened in November. Teresa showed up there with Judith and our architect, discussed that with design review board. There was no concerns. Seemed to actually be generally approved and accepted, which is great. Architect is moving forward. Teresa and I had another meeting with him today. There's some question about where the electrical for that building is currently and how SiteLogic is connecting to it. But because we don't have final construction plans for Building A, we're not going to try to adjust anything from where the electrical is now. We can adjust that if necessary once the plans for Building A's demonstration kitchen get a little bit farther in. Whether or not we have to move conduits to the new external wall or move it to the east facing wall. But there will probably be some additional work. It didn't make sense to stop SiteLogic and go back to the county and the re-permitting part for an estimated building that we don't have designs for. So we know SiteLogic will essentially be done before we move into Encinitas Design Group, but we did make sure that that architect was aware of where that electrical box is so that as he's moving forward, he can be making adjustments for that as well.
Okay.
So he did give us October? Is that when we did the kitchen conversation?
Yeah.
I think in October.
Yeah.
We had a meeting with the architect and his kitchen planning expert and made some alterations and adjustments to how the kitchen would be laid out. As a reminder, we took the Taylor design plan, provided that to Encinitas Design Group, and then they are working from that. That meeting that Teresa and I then had with them really was much more of a practical hands-on, how do we plan to use this space? And let's reevaluate where stuff is. Because what Taylor Design presented to us back in the day is not really as relevant now. And so we wanted to make sure from programming standpoint, that what we're asking for will make much more sense. So we'll probably start seeing more detail come forward to this committee about the specifics of the demonstration kitchen within the next couple of months. But that should catch you up on building A.
So, thank you. When you and Teresa and the architect went to the planning committee most recently, tell me again what it was that you presented to the planning committee or
Sure.
planning group.
That one had to do with the extension of the roof line to be able to cover the expansion of that building.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So when we get more definitive stuff with respect to the kitchen, does that have to go to the planning group and then to the county?
Not until we have actual construction level documents.
But it still does then have to go that way.
Yeah, and I spoke with Eileen for planning group.
Yeah.
Because the initial change of the building wasn't a problem for the group, the internal stuff won't matter, but we'll have actual full plans at that point, and it should be a much easier approval process from them before it goes over to county. The county always likes to make sure that local plans have been seen by the planning group, and that's an easy thing for us to accommodate.
Yeah, I know. Okay, thanks for that.
Okay. And then point C, which is building B, the education. We launched an RFP to find a general contractor in November
Yeah.
to do the room conversion and the upgrade to the exterior restrooms. Unfortunately, I think just because the holidays and such, there wasn't a lot of interest. We had one local general contractor who came and did the job site walk, and we had anticipated he'd bid. He let Teresa know, just local community member, that unfortunately, due to circumstances within their own family, they weren't going to be able to bid. So on the bid date, we didn't have any active bidders. So what we're going to do is there's a couple of things we found in discovery of the job walk that I'll ask Arch 5, our design group, to make some upgrades to that, and I will relaunch that RFP likely within the next couple of weeks. And then we'll reach out to the local general contractor and repost it so that we can see if we can get some bites on the project.
Yeah, that may be hard. When the RFP went out, I made sure that a copy went to McFarland Construction, and I saw him at Rotary some time ago and asked him if he was going to bid. And he said it just doesn't make any sense because of the union costs, union labor cost, and
for prevailing wage.
Yeah, so I don't know how many other construction companies feel that way. What do you think, Roy?
No, I would agree. I think you're right. I think that would make sense.
Yeah, the unfortunate part is that we don't have a choice. We have to pay prevailing wage for the project because it's at our bid threshold.
Yeah.
I did speak to Jeff about it, and he was going to look in to see if there was a design build option so that we didn't have to go through the bid process.
Right.
However, the statute that he was looking at, if it's the same one that I was looking at, actually expires at the end of this month. So I don't think that we would be able to trigger it, and I don't think our project fell within the guidelines.
Yeah.
But Jeff was going to look at that.
Can't a project be broken down into smaller steps?
Not really, because it's bathrooms. That's the expensive part. You know, if it was just the room conversion, no problem. But it would have to be 3 separate projects: room conversion, the interior restrooms, and then the exterior restrooms. And if that's the case, we already have vendors who could do that. So maybe we'll have to see after this next RFP. It would be nice to have one person in there. Breaking it into 3 projects looks a little less above board. But we may have to see it if we can't get anyone else interested. So.
Thank you.
And that's all I've got for A, B, and C.
So I run a pretty efficient meeting, huh?
You sure do.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel.
Unless you have any other questions about what's going on at the property, to catch up. I know you've been at the board meetings, obviously.
Yep.
But there, it's been mostly just a lot of site logic and then planning. We're not at any decision or pinch points yet, so.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, then I will adjourn our meeting and I'll be back at 6.
All right, we'll see you back then.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Howard.
You betcha.
Anything else, Roy, for you or?
No,